Tilt rotators. They're probably the single most divisive item in the field of construction plant and equipment. There are some operators that love them and that would refuse to work without them. But there are others that believe that the use of a tilt rotator makes them less of an operator, less of a man even. Despite those reservations, tilt rotators have proliferated. Visits to the Bauma exhibition in 2022 and the PlantWorx exhibition in 2023 prove that the acceptance of tilt rotators is on the rise, and that an increasing number of manufacturers are adding these divisive tools to their product line. But not all tilt rotators are created equal. In this exclusive interview with Kinshofer's Adam Haycock, we address that unfounded resistance, why Kinshofer's cylinderless design has advantages in certain applications, and how a tilt rotator can save both time and money. So, Adam, it seems like tilt rotators have finally come of age at long last. Why did it take so long for us to be convinced when our Scandinavian cousins have been turned on to tilt rotators for decades?
I think there's two parts to that. So the Scandinavian market is very dominated by owner-operators, and so it's people investing in their own excavators, their own kit. And so you see, not just tilt rotators, but the level of customizability and buying kit and attachments. Scandinavians have always been ahead of the UK, because in the UK we have a far more higher market. It's dominated by a higher market. And in that respect, the operators are a little bit more disconnected from the machines that they use. So you're less likely to see someone really investing or taking speculative investment into their excavator, because they need to see some far more hard facts with the productivity benefits with tilt rotators. And I think the other side is the labour market. In Scandinavia, the manual labour market was a lot more expensive, but we all know with the last few years, or the last 10 years, things have been really creeping upwards in terms of manual labour costs in this country. So anyone, or every single operator is looking for that productivity benefit that removes the need for getting hands on the ground. And I think that's why we're getting a bit closer to the Scandinavia in terms of the adoption of this stuff.
It's interesting you should mention the operators themselves, because whenever we mention tilt rotators, we get a bit of a split in the audience. We either get those that absolutely love them, wouldn't be without them, and those that seem to believe they would be less of an operator, possibly slightly less manly, if they were to have a tilt rotator. Yeah. Do you encounter that very much?
Yeah, I don't actually encounter that very much. I think tilt rotators have actually been quite well established as marking the skill of an operator. The tilt rotator operator is the only person who can do certain jobs. There's certain contracts that only they can get access to. And I think if you're actively sort of putting yourself out of that, if you're a skilled operator and you're saying, oh, well, I can do all sorts, well, the market has established that this is a skill that they actually want. So any skilled operator out there who's just putting it out, actively saying, well, I don't need that, well, you're disconnecting yourself from a lot of contracts there. The people I see who are a bit more hesitant are the people who are actually hold the purse strings. It's the owners of the hire companies, it's the people who are buying the kit. They're the people who need to see hard facts about the productivity. They understand what the product does, but they need to know when they're investing in their machines, they will actually get the benefits that we're describing. And we got case studies. We work very closely with a lot of our end customers to sort of show, well, actually, no, people are getting these benefits, but it's just a painstaking process with some of these people, because they're always hesitant of that sort of big investment in new technology.
With that in mind, but bearing in mind some of those will be watching this show, what would you personally say are the real key benefits of a tilt rotator?
I think it's, first of all, flexibility. So from a fixed point, with the sort of 360 rotation and the tilt angle, you can plonk your excavator into a fixed position and you you have that full maneuverability to be able to operate on precise works all the way around the sort of the excavator. And that saves a lot of time in terms of re-maneuvering your excavator to be in line with the trench you wanted to dig. You can also work parallel to your excavator. So certain sorts of works along the rail, along roadsides, it becomes so much easier because you can just be on the other side of like the hard shoulder or a barrier and be operating alongside your machine. That in mind, the sort of precision work you're also able to do with a tilt rotator, it removes the need to have as many hands on the ground, as much manual labor. With a gripper model and a small bucket and that maneuverability, you can work around mains, you can work on far more precise operations, and you're instantly saving costs because you don't have to have as many guys with shovels in their hands. And that's a lot of money saved at the end of the day.
There are, having recently returned from PlantWorx, there are one hell of a lot of tilt rotators on the market these days. What is it that makes the Kinshofer NOx system stand out from the crowd, would you say?
Number one, it's cylinders, or cylinderless, I should say. We are the only serious tilt rotator on the market that has adopted a cylinderless model. And that has, I think, a variety of benefits to the end customer. First of all, it's the profile. Without having the cylinders on the sides of the tilt rotator, you instantly getting a much narrower body. So with the cylinders, they go wider than your dipper, and suddenly, if you want to do a deep trench, you're actually kind of limited with how narrow you can go. Whereas the NOx tilt rotator, it's as narrow as the dipper of the machine. So you are getting all the productivity and flexibility benefits of a tilt rotator without actually having to really change any of the functionality or the way you've been doing some trenching or digging. There's other benefits to our cylinderless model in being, I think it's a lot more fit for purpose for a tough working environment. There's no exposed parts that can be accidentally knocked off. The valving is also, I think, a lot better covered on our model. So you're not having soil or sediment or scrap getting in and involved in it. And if there's a situation in which you bury your tilt rotator accidentally, the trench has been sort of caved in, it is not a problem. You just tear it out. The tilt rotator the NOx tilt rotator can deal with it. And I think the third real benefit to ours is I think we're a lot more flexible with the way we do our range and work with the customer to make sure they get what they want. We haven't been in the market of doing, I think, a one-size-fits-all product. We've really sort of worked on getting a really broad range of couplers, of control systems, and other different additional add-ons that make sure that we can work to what the customer's application is, rather than sort of get sort of a one-size-fits-all approach to our product.
I'm glad you mentioned the toughness and the durability of the machine, because I spend a lot of my time speaking to demolition people. And there does seem to be a concern there that tilt rotators in general are not tough enough for that application. What would you say to that?
I think there's two parts to that. Obviously, there are some applications tilt rotator is just not suitable for. I won't lie. It's just the same as there's some works that a 2-ton excavator or a small kind of mini digger is not applicable for. It's just a reality of kit. It's built for certain work. I will say tilt rotators used smartly can be used all sorts. So I mean the demolition is a perfect example where I think if you're using for very specific jobs within that demolition context, it's good. But if you're going to go slamming it into buildings, slamming it using breakers on the bottom, you're abusing a piece that's probably much more used for precision work. What I think the NOx tilt rotator offers in that context is a lot less chance of this accidental damage in an environment where there's a lot of debris, a lot of scrap. You're in a position where with the cylinders, the sort of exposed parts, the cylinder rods, it doesn't require much to basically break them. If you sort of a small chip and suddenly that's compromised, you're leaking oil slowly. So in that context, I think the Knox tilt rotator is a bit more applicable, but in the demolition, I think operators do have to be careful of where they're actually applying the tilt rotator so that they're getting the proper use of it rather than just buying a fancy bit of kit and abusing it, to be honest.
As a company, Kinshofer seems to be doing very well, keeping pace with technological change. And that seems to give the Knox system a great deal of customizability. I'm not even sure if customizability is a word. But tell me about that, about how you can actually apply the Knox tilt rotator to different applications and different operators and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so from the offset, I think we've got quite a broad range of control systems. We've got some CSP types, so it's the solenoid valve types. I think people familiar with tilt rotators will know these because that's how I think the likes of Encom, Steel Wrist, and Rototilt, they all operate. And we've got two varieties of those. One's with a screen module, which gives, I think, is good for the owner-operators to use. This is our Knox Prop Plus system. And that gives a lot of on-the-ground customizability of how they're using their different functions and tool profiles. And then slightly dragged back from that is our Knox Prop system, which is a slightly older version. But I think there's a lot of companies like this because it's a much smaller screen module and it removes the possibility of certain operators going into the machine and messing with the settings and getting it wrong. If you drag back to something like our DF4 and DF6 systems, these are control systems that work with some of the machines' existing bidirectional lines. It's a slightly cheaper option, and I think with tilt rotators, people are slightly put off with the upfront cost of them. So anything we can do to sort of say, well, actually getting some of the productivity benefits, but we're reducing on cost and the installation. That system's quite good. And then our DF10 system, and this is one that I think we've gotten a lot of traction for, and I think we should get a lot of traction for in the future, which is our purely hydraulic system. This requires no electronic installation at all and uses just the machine's existing hydraulic lines. So this has been actually quite a big sell in the hire market where people have got massive fleets all across the country and they don't want to buy a tilt rotator that's married to their machine with an electronic install. And so it's a dumb tilt rotator, but by just buying one and you've got say a fleet of cat machines or JCBs, by just buying one of these tilt rotators, you're actually improving your entire fleet because you can have it on a specific job, say in Somerset, and then you've got another job 2 weeks later. You just move the tilt rotator and refit it to the job up in Newcastle, say. So on that side, I think we offer a really broad range of options, which we can match well with the customer's need. And we just go down the conversation with each customer. More broadly then, the other ways that we customize our couplers or our tilt rotators is the lower quick couplers. We've got over 68 different options for our lower quick coupler across our entire range. And that's working with sort of like Leap or standard S-type oil quick and a variety of different specific customer options such as like Atlas. The option that we've also got a lot of traction, I think specifically in the UK, is our Doherty D-Lock option, which we have a range of couplers which we can match to the indigenous excavator pickups. So we don't push people necessarily down the S-type option where they're having to get new buckets, convert to the Scandinavian, Norwegian standardized model. We can pick up your existing buckets, thus saving a lot of costs. And also, if you've got a larger fleet, it's removing the need for having specific buckets for specific machines. You can keep a universal, universal bracket sizes. So in our context, we make sure that the Knox tilt rotator fits seamlessly into customers' existing fleets. Beyond that, we've got a variety of other additional add-ons in terms of working with high flow functions or potential electrical functions of attachments below that. And all of our dealers are well aware of these products, and they're all very, very happy to have a conversation with customers and making sure we can fit their customizability. And then the final thing is, I think Kinshofer as a whole has really prided itself in being able to work for really specific applications and functions. And if the customer comes to us saying they're wanting to use tilt rotator in something that's not a very unstandard application, we're very happy of working with them and talking them through that, and potentially coming up with a special build option that works for them.
Imagine I'm a potential customer. I'm about to make my first ever tilt rotator purchase. Why should I choose Kinshofer?
So with Kinshofer, I think if they're sold on the general premise of a tilt rotator, I think what we would say with the Knox is your lifetime costs are massively reduced by the compact and durable design. You're much less likely to have sort of accidental damage of sort of exposed parts. I think the narrowness does account for a lot in terms of productivity. Over time, if you're working on these deep trenching, that narrowness adds up because you're having to remove a lot less material and backfill a lot less material. So the sort of costs of wastage, costs of concrete or cement or asphalt, a lot less. I think the other part is we can work very, very closely to what they actually need, rather than just saying this is a tilt rotator, buy it or not. A customer who's wanting to pick up their existing buckets, we can do that. Or a customer that's looking for a specific manipulator application, we can do that. We can work with them. So I think if you're looking for reduced wear, reduced lifetime costs, more money saving, and a better fit to what they need, that's why you go Knox rotator.
I guess the final question really, and this one does come out of left field, but you've just been talking about it. Obviously, you have moving parts within a Knox tilt rotator. Mm-hmm. What about things like parts and after-sales support? I assume there is a UK dealer network where people can actually get access to all of that?
Yeah, so what we recommend always is just going through the dealer that you bought it through. I think we've done a lot over the past year to invest more in our the parts stocking, parts supports that we have. The reality is with certain fixes, there are far more involved parts, internal parts, and they require a skilled dealer to be able to do some of these repairs. But vast majority of these costs you don't end up seeing because of our 2-year, so a generous 2-year warranty. In our dealer network, it's just a case of any dealer that we sell through, we're confident they'll be able to do every repair and supply any part that you need, and we work on that basis.